Can I also get a confirmation if everybody is able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me go there. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to Data with Pandas Session 1. We are excited to guide you through this journey of learning Pandas, which is one of the most powerful tools for data analysis in Python. This course is supported by JetBrains Academy, and as it was mentioned in the meetup details, we hope you have downloaded the PyCharm, hopefully maybe community edition, and then install the plugin for the JetBrains course. If you have not done it, no worries, you can do it after this session. It will help you go through the entire course and practice as well. Okay, so we're following JetBrains Academy curriculum, which is right now on the slide that you see. Today, we are going to cover the first two topics, which is introduction to Pandas, and we'll take a look at what are the data structure in Pandas, how to load the data, and inspect the data and clean the data, maybe a little bit of data exploration if the time permits. But we're not going to hurry through it. All right, let's start with the introduction. So before we talk about pandas, I would like to say that usually when you're working with data, any kind of data, it's in a rectangular format, right? It's a table with rows and columns. Rows are observations and columns can be considered as variables. So to work with such kind of data, we need some system or a library which has data structures of a similar rectangular format or a tabular format. So what data structures can we use and what libraries can we use here? Maybe NumPy. If you have attended previous sessions, you would say maybe we can use NumPy to handle a data set with rows and columns. But NumPy is not really great at handling data that of different data types. So that is where Pandas comes into picture and shines. Pandas is a powerful tool for data manipulation, especially when the data is in a rectangular format and has labels for rows as well as columns. Okay, so let me go to introduction to pandas. So pandas, as I said, is a high-level data manipulation tool which is built on NumPy, but it is more powerful compared to NumPy. It was built by Wes McKinney and it handles data of different data types. The main data structure that we will be using in pandas is data frame. So there are two main data structures in pandas, series and data frame. Series is one-dimensional and data frame is two-dimensional, which is rows and columns, to say it in a simpler way. Okay, so let's try to understand what is a data frame. So here, in this whole session, we'll be using this one data set of European country, population, GDP, and area. Okay, so now we have this data set, and you can see it has rows, which represent the observations, columns, which are different variables, and each column has column labels, and every row also has row labels. The row labels are optional. If we don't have row labels, it could be indexing or row numbers, right? So in pandas, the row labels are called as index, and the column labels are simply referred to as columns. So columns, and this is the index. And every column along with the column label and data is a series. So series is basically, if you to put it in a simple way, like one column is one series, and series are the building blocks of data frame. When series combine together, they form a data frame. All right. So now, how do we create these series or data frames? So we'll take a look at that now. First, we'll try to understand how to create series, and then how to create data frames. And to understand this more than the concept, we will go into the JetBrains course, and we'll try out a few examples to do that. All right. Before we do that, whenever we want to use pandas as a library in Python, always remember that we'll have to import it with this code. Import pandas as PD. PD is a normal convention or a globally used convention for pandas, so that everywhere in the code when we use pandas, we could just use PD. Feel free to ask any questions either in the chat box, or you can raise your hand or unmute and speak. Or we'll leave some time at the end as well for questions. Okay, so let's look at what is series. As I said, series is a one-dimensional labeled array. It's the building block of a data frame. And to create a series, this is the syntax that we use, pd.series. And then we pass on whatever data we want to use to create a series. And then optionally, we can mention what are the row labels using this index equals row labels. Okay, so the data that we use to create a series can be an array. It can be just one simple value like a digit or a scalar value. It can be a list, a dictionary, or any other data structure. Okay, so let's look at, we have some example in the slide. It's here so that when we share the PDF later, you can refer to it. But let's take a look at creating this as an exercise, hands-on. So can you see my screen right now? Let me close all these files. And okay. Can I just get a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen right now? Anybody? All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Hold on a second. Okay. So here, I'm sorry. I think I went back to the slide. All right. So this is an example to create series. So we have imported pandas as PD. And you can see in the first example, we'll try to create a series using a dictionary. A dictionary basically has keys and values. So when we create the series, we use pd.series and then just pass on the dictionary here. By default, when we use a dictionary, the keys will be considered as the index or the row labels, and the data or these numbers will be considered as a series. So when I run this, you can see the first result here. Sorry, this is, sorry about that. Okay.
I'm sorry, Rajashi.
Yes.
Please, can you increase the font size a little bit?
Of the code
Or
fill?
zoom in? Yes.
Let me see. I'm not
But
sure if we can.
I think you can do it from your side. You can resize in the screen.
Can you do Control Plus?
Yeah, you can from your side.
In the right corner in the screen share, you can just click in the zoom button. Then you can zoom just the screen
Let
that
me
is
see
being
if I
shared.
could do that. I'm not sure how to do that. Could anybody help me if we can?
We can do it from
Okay.
our end. So we can just zoom our screen and then,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay. So I think increase font size and all that. Is this better, Navina?
Yes. Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Okay, so I'm going to comment the other examples here. The shortcut to comment is you highlight. So if I want to comment these lines, I just highlight them and press Control and /. So now coming back to our dictionary, we're passing just the dictionary. We are not passing any index or any other details. And when we run that, you can see that the keys have been automatically considered as the row labels or index, and the values are here. Okay, so that is an example of creating series using the dictionary. And let us go to our next examples. Okay, so in the second example, we are using two lists, names and age. And age, we are passing that as our data. And for the index or row labels, we are using the names. So when we use pd.series and run it, you can see here that it has taken index names and this is the age. So this is basically the one-dimensional series that has been created. Now the third one is a series created using a scalar value. So here you can see we've mentioned pd.series and 5. So we want 5 to be repeated in the series. And how many times should it be repeated, or what should be the length of the series is mentioned here using the range. Range basically generates a number. If you have mentioned 3, it generates 3 numbers starting from 0. So it's generated the index as 0, 1, 2, and 5 is repeated thrice. Okay, so these are some examples of series. This is not present in the course of JetBrains, but here the task, all the files with the name task you see is present in the JetBrains course, which is for our practice, and you could try that hands-on by yourself. Okay. All right. So this is how we create series. Let me go back to the slide where to look at how we can create data frames. Okay. So series was one-dimensional, data frame is a two-dimensional data structure. Most commonly used would be data frame. So we'll try to focus more on that. It accepts, again, arrays, dictionaries, lists, list of lists, series, or any other data frame as well. Okay, so when it comes to creating data frames, there are two methods mainly at a high level. We can either create manually or read from external sources. Manual creation, I mean that you could hard code the data within your code, and reading from external sources is basically loading the data from any files or databases like CSV, Excel, JSON, or SQL databases. Okay, so let's go one by one. We'll see first how to create a data frame with manual data and how to load it from a file. I'll not go through many different types so that we don't spend too much time on that. We will just go through a couple of examples, and then maybe after the session you can practice and get back to us for any questions. Okay, so I hope everybody can see the slide right now. Okay, thank you. All right, so for manually creating data frame, this is the syntax. We use pd.dataframe and pass on the data, which is a two-dimensional data, and then we specify the index, which will be considered as row labels. So henceforth, whenever I say index, please understand that it is the labels for the rows. So we'll specify index and columns. The data can be dictionary, series, list, another data frame, or a two-dimensional array. We have images of examples here, but let's go to our JetBrains course to maybe do like one or two examples. Okay. So here we have a list of lists. And okay, the first one, we have a dictionary, and then we also have a list of lists. So first we'll try to create a data frame using a dictionary. So in the dictionary, you can see we have keys, country, population, GDP, and area. And each of these keys have values in the form of lists, name of countries, etc. And here we know that the keys will be considered as the index, which is the row labels. Okay. So when we do pd.dataframe, we'll pass on the dictionary, and we say that the index this is manually typed, Okay, so we are passing on a list of row labels, and then we're using the dictionary here. And when I run this, if you look at the top data frame that is created, the keys have been considered as the column labels or the columns. And then we have passed the index, which appear here, and then it's got the data. So this is our little data frame we created using the dictionary. And the second, it's the same data, but right now it is here as a list of lists. And when we use the pd.dataframe, we pass on the data. Here we are mentioning the index and columns because this is not a dictionary. The Pandas library will not automatically take the there are no keys to identify as the column labels. So we are manually passing the index and the columns here, and we run it, we get this same data frame as we got before. Okay, so if you already have the course installed, the plugin and everything ready, you can try it while the session is going on. At the end, we'll try to set aside at least 5 or 10 minutes for doing some exercise by yourself as well. So this is an example of manually creating a data frame. And then let us try to see how we'll load the data from external sources. So here you can read, the syntax is pretty much same for different files. If it's a CSV file, we just say pd.read_CSV and then mention the path of the file. If it's a JSON file, it is read_JSON. So let me just go to the slide there. Yeah, so you can see for the files, the syntax is pretty much same. Just the last term changes based on the file type. But when it comes to SQL or databases, the syntax changes based on what kind of data sources it is. It will be different for MySQL, it would be different for SQLite, etc. So it's important to refer to the documentation when we are trying to read data from any external data source. All right, so let's go back to the course here. I'm going to close all the other files. Okay. Let me this as well. All right, sorry. Okay, so right now we're just trying to read the data of European countries again, which is in the form of a CSV file. So let me run that, and you can see that it has printed the data frame here or created a data frame here, but there is a problem which is here. You can see that it has, by default, it has generated the index as 0 through 5, the numbers, but it has considered our our intended row labels as a separate column with the column name 0 because it's not named. So to include these as index, we have to mention index call equals 0, and I think that should be it. So when we add index call equals 0, then now it looks better with the index and columns in a proper way. Okay, so let's look at the next example. Again, so this is again a JSON file which will work in a similar way. It's just that everywhere we have CSV changes to JSON. Let me run that. Okay. So you can see that we're reading the JSON file here. It's just that CSV changed to JSON. It's very similar. And the only additional thing is that since it doesn't have an index already, by default, it would, if I don't do this df.setIndex and run it without that, by default, we, Pandas assigns the numbers from 0 through 4 as the index. And then when we customize it, it takes the provided index as row labels. Okay, so these are a couple of examples of creating data frames from external data sources. Okay, so before I move on further, I would like to see if anybody has any questions. And let me also share the link in the chat box to the course, which you can, to the Pandas course of JetBrains. You can download and access it if you haven't done that already. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'm going to continue to the next topic. All right. Okay, so the next thing is, now we know how to read or create data frames. Now we want to know how to index data frame. Basically, that's how to access, to look at the data, rows and columns, etc. So there are 3 ways to index it. You might be familiar if you have worked with arrays in Python. So first one is using square brackets, then log and ilog. So using square brackets, this is an example here. If you want to look at the column country, you just use the data frame name, and square brackets mention the country name. Mention the column name or the row labels or the index here, and you get the required output. That is using square brackets, which is pretty straightforward. For log is basically to access the label-based data using the index or the column labels. So here is an example where you could use log. You can see here we're using the row labels or index and column labels. Using the same square brackets, but here instead of the index for rows, you can see the row labels or the index is being used. And ilog is integer position based, where we will not be using labels, but instead we'll be using the integer position. It always starts from 0. So if you want to access the first row, we say 0. If you want to access the first column, it's 0. And here, for example, if we want to access the first 2 rows and the country and the area, the column country and area, right? So 0 and 1, these are the, this is the first row and the second column, which is for Germany. 0.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Is it?
No, it was probably some background noise. I didn't
Okay.
heard the question.
I think maybe he was trying to correct me because I incorrectly said something. Yeah, so it was basically the first set of numbers in the first set of square brackets is the rows, and the second set of numbers is the columns, if I'm not wrong. Yes, so 0 and 1, if you can see, are the first 2 rows. So we're looking at Germany and France here. And 0 and 3 represent the columns, which is the first and the fourth column. So first column is the country and area is the fourth column. So the first one that you see in the square bracket is always the rows, and the next one are the columns. So maybe we'll look at a couple of examples there. Yeah, here. Let me close that. Okay, so I have a list of examples over here, but we'll just go through it one by one so that there is more clarity, but maybe not all, just a couple of them. So like I said, if yeah, So this is the data frame that we're looking at, the European countries data frame. And when I say DF square bracket country in quotes, you can see the first column is being returned. And this is basically an example of using the square brackets and to look at both the rows and columns. Sorry, this is if you want to look at more than one columns, the column the column names can be passed as a list. So you're looking at two columns here, and then this is accessing the rows using square brackets. Unexpected indent. Okay. All right. So 0 to 2, it returns the first two rows. Okay. And then the next example, I'll go to the log. Okay. Let me just undo this part maybe. Okay. So you can see that we're trying to access Germany and Italy for these two columns. And the same is being returned here. Log is label based. And then ilog is index based. Okay, so we want the first and the fourth row, 0 and 3, and the second and the third column, 1 and 2. Okay, so first and fourth row, Germany and UK. And the column is the second and third, which is population and GDP. So that's being returned. Okay. So I am thinking that there might be a question about this later. If I don't get that, maybe I'll ask you the question back and then we'll see if anybody can guess the answer. Okay. So any questions so far? Let me go back to the slide. Okay, so if no questions, I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so now we looked at how to access the data, and now we will go to the interesting part of data analysis, which is exploring the data, trying to see how the data looks like at a high level, and then if time permits, we'll also do some look at the data cleaning part. So instead of looking at the slides, we will directly go to the example. Okay, so let me close this file and we have, yeah, data exploration. All right, so let me comment all this. I'm going to uncomment this as we go ahead. Okay, so yeah. So let me print this a little bit off. So, okay, so we are going to use the same European countries data, but this time we are going to use more number of rows, slightly bigger data set, and we're going to explore. Okay, so I have a CSV file with me. I have loaded it here. Now I want to go and see what does it look like. So I have df.shape here, and when I run it, it tells me 34 and 5, meaning it has 34 rows and 5 columns. Okay, so now next I want to see what are the row labels. And for that, we can use df.index and it gives me, okay, these are the row labels. Now I see that, okay, what is this? This might not be a valid data, but we're not going to do anything about it. We'll just keep it so that we don't miss anything important. Okay. So right now we're just exploring it. Next, I want to see what are the columns that the data contains. So for that, we use df.columns and it shows these are the different columns we have. Okay. And we also have df.values. And this gives the entire set of values except for the index or row labels and column labels. It gives the main set of values. Okay, I'm going to comment that because it is taking up a lot of space. Now, the next thing, after looking at how many rows and columns, I want to see what does the actual data looks like. So for that, we can use df.head, and it will give us the first 5 rows of the data. So this is how the data looks like. Okay, you can see that you can see the data types. You can get a brief idea of what are the different columns and rows and how big numbers you have, etc. You can also there is also df.tail, which shows the last couple of rows of the data. Okay, and then you have df.info, which is interesting. It shows you the different columns, what are the different data types for each column, and how many non-null values it has. Okay, so you can see that all other columns have 34 non-null values, which means they don't have any null values, but population has 2 null values, and hence it is showing 2 less non-null values. Okay, and you can also see the data types here. Then we have df.describe, which describes the data as the name indicates. It gives us for every numerical column in the data, it gives the statistical details like what's the count, mean, standard deviation, etc. Okay, so these are the statistical details for the numerical columns that are present in the data set. Then one more interesting thing is value counts. If you want to see how many unique values you have in a particular column. So here we are saying df.valueCounts subset is basically to mention if you want to specify a particular column. We're trying to see country here, but you can see, this is interesting, that for all other countries, you have the unique value count as 1, but here you can see for France and Portugal and Norway, it's 3, which might be duplicates, but we don't know for sure yet. Okay, so now we are going to check if it has any null values or missing values. In that case, we use df.isNull.sum. Okay, and that will give us a count of how many null values every column has. So you can see that population column has 2 null values or missing values. Okay, and then lastly, we will try to see if there are any duplicates in the data set. For that, we use df.duplicated.sum. So for null values and duplicate, the syntax is pretty much the same. It's just that is null, you can replace that with duplicated. If I run that, you can see here, there are 3 duplicates. It's showing that there are 3 duplicates. Okay. So this is an example of how to explore the data initially when we at a very high level when you're just trying to look at the data newly. And I would like to have any questions before moving on to data cleaning. Okay. Nona, do you want me to continue or should we just try and give some time?
Yeah, I see we have 10 minutes till
Okay.
then. Or maybe we try to do some tasks or something, some examples.
I think, yeah, I think we'll pause here and do we want the attendees to try it on their own and see? I can go through these.
Yeah, maybe what I wanted to ask you to to describe into words what is this JetBrains plugin and how our attendees can use it during this course. Because I see me and you were used to use it, and we know where the structures with the tasks and the theory and how to navigate there. And maybe you can explain to others how they can navigate through this, because this course lectures, this is the theory and the main theory explanations, but these courses also you can do by yourself and can take any other courses from this JetBrains Academy plugin. And here we will teach you how to use it for the maximum effort.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let me start from the starting. So to begin with, you can install the PyCharm Community Edition, which is the free version. And then I have shared the link of the course from JetBrains. So this is the link. And from here, you could download the plugin to be installed. And right now, I have already downloaded it, so I can go and open it in PyCharm. Okay, so this is the course which has been opened in PyCharm Community Edition, Gateway to Pandas. They have other courses as well. They have, so this is the interface. And then on the left side, you can see this is the structure or the curriculum of the course. And if I expand this, you can see the chapters, and under the chapters, you have the tasks, which are Python files for practicing. And at the center, we have our code editor. So if I click on the Python exercise here, it opens up in the code editor where we can, it's basically already filled in with a partial code, and we just have to enter what is left for practicing. And then on the right side, you have the explanation. So let me just show an example. So this is basically when the Pandas course, when I open the first chapter, introduction, and there I have the first chapter as why Pandas, and I double click on that here. On the right side, I will read the explanation, and here at the end, they will mention what needs to be done. So here right now, there is nothing to be done here. So I'm just going to, let me reset this because, yeah. So now if I just run this file, it shows that once the file successfully run, it's completed, and then we could go to the next chapter. Okay, and yeah, so since this is completed, you can also go to the next chapter, navigating around. And in the first chapter, you can see that they've also mentioned how you could use it, how you could use the interface. All right, so once you complete this exercise, all you can go to the next chapter, and whenever you run the course, the code in the editor, you can see the results in the bottom window, and you can minimize it when you don't want to look at it. Okay, and at every course, initially they have explained a chapter for how to navigate around the interface, and they've given a nice course overview, what the course consists of, and how to use the editor. Okay. Yeah, so initial first set of chapters will always be a nice explanation of how to use the interface. And to explain how to use it, for example, if I'm reading Pandas, this code I have already done, so it's showing as done here at the bottom right side. I can reset the content if I want to re-practice it, and the code will be reset, and then you can again run. it. So that means that the exercise is completed, and then you could proceed to the next chapter. All right, and what else? So for Pandas, you can look at, these are the main high level chapters, and at the end we will also try to do a project. And yeah, I think if at all you guys want to pursue any projects on your own, you could do that as well. And after this session, we would during and after this session, we would request you to um, try to go through the course. I mean, in the slides in this session, we're trying to do a high level explanation, which is applicable to the beginners as well. But if you go through the explanation in the course, it has very good technical details which will help you understand the subject better and build stronger foundation knowledge about the topics. Yeah, anything else that you would like to add, Nona?
Thank you for these guides. And from my side, I would like to add that feedback form link right now in your chat, and also we will post it in our Slack channel. The presentation will be shared in Slack channel. This is the Women Coding Community Slack, and our channel is Broad Coding Club. I will send you a link here as well. Coding Club Python. And also we will continue the next session with this course. And let me find my meet. This one. This is the name of our project. And also the video of this call will be available on our YouTube channel soon.
So Rashmi is asking, when is the next session of the series?
Within 2 weeks, we will have bi-weekly sessions every 2 weeks, and this will be 4 sessions. Yes, Nabila, I see your hand. Ask your question.
Yes, I want to ask about the certificate. If we do have like some project in order to validate to get the certification, or how it could be?
Currently, this short course and certificate will receive everyone who attend all the 4 sessions, and we receive some requests for the project. Maybe at the last session we will have a tiny project as a take-home task.
Okay, great.
I see also, I don't see session 2 in the event list. I will double check session 2. I saw it. Maybe it's on the draft. Let me do a quick check for the next, for the February the 13th.
Yes, so it would be on February 13th at the same time.
And the same link. And I will try to find it in our drafts.
So meanwhile, before the next session, again, we'd request you to go through the course. We'll be sharing the PDF of this session as well. You can go through that if you want a simplified version, and then practice. JetBrains interface is a very good one to start practicing while reading and studying as well. So that will help you better prepare for the next session and better understand it. So in the next session, we will try to look at data, cleaning up the data, trying to get rid of null values or any other things. And we will try to see how to do some manipulation of the data as well.
And I checked right now. Yeah, there's actually no meetup event published for session 2. I will publish it after this call.
I'm trying to see if we can share the link to the channel.
Yeah, the link will be the same.
The channel, the coding club. Slack channel link.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I post only the I post only the title, but also there are the link to the channel.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if it's not possible, you may come up with any other questions. You can post your questions in the Slack channel that Nona just shared, and we'll try to respond as soon as possible. Please note that the video recording will take some time to be uploaded in YouTube. Meanwhile, you could use the PDF of the slides of today's slides that we share, and of course, you have the JetBrains course as well.
Mm-hmm. And also, you can put any other related Python questions in our Slack channel. We will be there. So we are brilliant on time.
Yes, that's great.
Thank you, Rajashi, to you for today's session.
Thank
That's
you.
really super useful. And thank you everyone for coming. We are looking forward to see you on the next one. This will be in 2 weeks, 13th of February. So right before the Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Yes.
I will stop the
We'll be having a well-informed